All right, students, we've gone over this train worksheet, but I'm going to go over it once and for all completely. Even if you have it, make sure you pay attention because you will probably see this again and be tested on it, so you know how it goes. All right, so the first question says, what time does the train arrive at Bristol? Okay, so this is a distance time graph. Okay, and then if we trace the line, this is when the train left the town called Swansea, and this is when the train got to London. And these names right here in between, Newport, Bristol, and Reading, these are cities that are in between Swansea and London that the train goes through on its journey. Okay, so we can see that here the train left the station at 8 o'clock and then it made its way along its route. Okay, and so we see if we travel the speed time graph of the train, at this point right here is when the train gets to Bristol. And so we need to figure out what time this is. Okay, so we see that this is 8 o'clock and this is 9 o'clock. Right in between 8 o'clock and 9 o'clock is 8:30. Okay, so 8:30 would be right here. But halfway between 8 o'clock and 8:30 would be 8:15. So these little intervals here must be 15 minutes each. And we can double check by going 8 o'clock, 8:15, 8:30, 8:45, 9 o'clock. So if this is the point when the train got to Bristol and it's right here, that's one interval past 10. So the train must have gotten to Bristol at 10:15. And it's 10:15 a.m. because this is 8 o'clock in the morning. And we know that because right here is 12 o'clock and 13 o'clock. But 13 o'clock is not really something we use here in the United States. So that's 1 o'clock in the afternoon. So this must be 8 o'clock in the morning. It asks how many stops did the train make on its journey to London? Well, on a distance time graph, when the line is straight and horizontal, then that tells us that the object is not moving. So the train stops right here, that's once, stops there, that's two, stops there, that's three, stops there, that's 4 times, and stops there, that's 5. Okay, so the train stops 5 times on its way to London. So that would be the answer to that one. Now this one's going to involve a little bit more work and require you to use the previous knowledge that we've learned in the classroom. It says, what was the speed of the train between Bristol and Reading? And give your answer to the nearest miles per hour. First of all, we should write down what we already know. We know that speed is equal to the distance an object travels divided by the time it takes that object to get there. Okay, and so it's the distance between Bristol and Reading. We see that on our y-axis, which is where our distance is, that it is going up by intervals of 20. Okay, and so if we get to Bristol and we want to know how far it is from Bristol to Reading, we go 20, 40, 60, 80. We see that the total distance between Bristol and Reading is 80 miles. Then we also need the time. Our time is located down here. This is when the train left Bristol, and this is when it got to Reading. Okay, so it left Bristol here at 10:45 and got there at 11:30, which we can see here. So that's each block being 15 minutes. That's 15, 30, 45 minutes that it took to get from Bristol to Reading. Now, 45 minutes is 3/4 of an hour, and we need to put our time in hours. Okay, so otherwise, if we put 45 minutes here, our answer would be in miles per minute, but they want to answer in miles per hour. And if you remember when we did our conversions, 45 minutes is 3/4 of an hour. Remember, 3/4 is 0.75, okay, and then that's going to be hours. And so our answer is going to be in miles per hour, which they asked us for. And if you put this into a calculator, you'll get 106.666. But it asked us to round our answer to the nearest mile per hour. And doing that, we'll get 107 miles per hour. And that would be the speed of the train between Bristol and Reading. Now, the next question asked, between which cities is the train the fastest? Well, you just go here and you can go in and calculate the speed between each city if you want, or you can just eyeball the graph. And you should know from your reading that whenever the line is the steepest on a distance time graph, that is when the object is moving at the fastest speed. And if we look on this graph, this is the section right here where the graph of the line is the steepest. And so it must be between Bristol and Reading. And so the answer to this question is between Bristol and Reading. And not only do we know that it's between Bristol and Reading, we also know how fast it's moving between Bristol and Reading, which is 107 miles per hour, because we just did it at the last question. Now, it says, what was the average speed for the whole trip from Swansea? So if you're going to do it for the whole trip, you have to use the ending point. Okay, and then again, our speed is distance over time. At the end of this trip, this train has gone a distance of 200 miles, which we can see from our graph here. And then the train got there, here you can see here is at 12:30, but it left at 8. And so for our time, we need the total time it took from 8 o'clock to 12:30. That's 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours, 4 hours and 30 minutes. 4 hours and 30 minutes is 4.5 hours. And if you do that math on your calculator or on your, if you work it out in your class, if you get to the nearest mile per hour, you're going to get 44 miles per hour. Now, this question down here, it says, how much time did the train spend in stations? Well, you know the train's got to stop at the stations, okay, to let people on and off the train. However, if you're not careful, you'll make a mistake, because you can see here between Swansea and Newport, the train actually stopped 2 times. But for some reason we don't know, but the train, this is not a station. The first time it stops in a station is here at Newport. And remember, it stops for only one interval here, and each interval is 15 minutes. So that's 15 minutes. And then it leaves Newport and goes to Bristol, where it stays there for this period right here. So that's 2 blocks. So this must be 30 minutes. And now that this train leaves Bristol, then it goes and it stops at Reading for 15 minutes. So these are the amount of time it spends in stations. So here, 15 plus 15 is 30, and 30 plus 30 is 60. So this is 60 minutes or 1 hour that this train spends in stations. Okay, they're both the same. You could put either answer. And so that's the end of the train graph. That's interpreting a graph. Interpret means you have to read a graph and tell me what it's saying. So that's one thing you're going to have to do. Now, the next thing you're going to do is create a graph, which is what we're going to use the little story for on the other side. And then I'm going to make a video for that right now. So make sure you go over and watch that one.